I run my thumb over the cool metal of the watch on my wrist, rose gold, perfectly polished, its tiny gears ticking in quiet harmony. My watch. My brand. My life's work staring back at me every time I check the time. The city hums outside my glass office window, a soft gray morning wrapped in rain. Somewhere below, horns blare, taxis splash through puddles, but up here, 10th floor, corner office, it's all muted. Controlled. Exactly how I like it. My silk blouse rustles as I reach for my coffee, the steam curling into my face. My phone buzzes once, sharp and insistent. When I see the name on the screen, I nearly laugh. Lily. My cousin. The last person I expected to hear from after all these years, after everything she took from me. I stare at the screen a moment longer than I should, feeling that familiar ache rise in my chest. There's a strange satisfaction now, though, too. Because if Lily is calling me, it means she doesn't know yet. She doesn't know that the girl she once humiliated, the one she called pathetic, now owns the watch company her husband probably brags about at dinner parties. I swipe to answer. Hello. My voice is calm, smooth. But my heart? It's beating like a drum. I was 21 the last time I saw Lily. It was a summer afternoon in Ohio, sticky and loud, the kind of heat that made the porch boards creak under bare feet. I was sitting on the steps outside my mom's house, clutching the only thing of value I owned, a slim silver watch my dad had given me before he passed. Still wearing that old thing? Lily's voice was sweet on the surface, sharp underneath. She stood at the bottom of the steps, blonde hair perfect, nails painted pale pink like they'd never seen a hard day's work. It's special, I said, tracing the edge of the face. Special doesn't pay rent. She smirked, stepping closer. Honestly, Emma, I don't know how you plan to survive out here. You can't even hold a job for more than 3 months. You're stuck. Her words stung, but what she did next cut deeper. Before I could react, she reached down, unbuckled the watch from my wrist, and held it up like a prize. Consider this motivation, she said with a laugh. When you finally get your life together, maybe I'll give it back. I remember my chest burning. Anger, humiliation, heartbreak all knotted together. I wanted to scream, but instead I just sat there, nails digging into my palms. That night, Grandma found me in the kitchen staring at the empty spot on my wrist. She poured me tea, sat down across from me, and said quietly, Emma, you can't stop time, but you can decide what you do with it. Her words hit me harder than Lily's cruelty ever could. The next morning, I packed a single duffel bag, scraped together $300, and bought a bus ticket out of town. No tearful goodbyes. No explanations. Just the sound of the bus engine rumbling under my seat, and the vow I made to myself as the fields blurred past the window. One day, I wouldn't just get my watch back. I'd make sure my time, every second of it, belonged to me. Chicago smelled like coffee and ambition when I arrived with nothing but that duffel bag and a stubborn little dream I hadn't even figured out yet. The first months were brutal. I worked double shifts at a diner, refilling coffee for strangers, wiping down tables until my fingers cracked. On weekends, I folded clothes at a department store just to cover rent on the tiny studio apartment that smelled faintly of someone else's cooking. But every night, no matter how exhausted I was, I sat cross-legged on the floor with a cheap notebook, sketching watches. Not just any watches, ones I wished existed. Sleek, bold, with faces that made you feel something when you wore them. I didn't know a single thing about manufacturing or design, but I learned. I checked out books from the library, watched YouTube tutorials, emailed strangers in the industry until one of them, a retired designer named Marjorie, agreed to meet me for coffee. Marjorie was everything Lily wasn't, warm, blunt, and generous with her knowledge. She told me which suppliers to avoid, which ones would take a chance on a newcomer with more heart than money. It's not just about making a watch, Emma, she said one evening as we sat in her cluttered workshop. It's about making time matter. Those words stuck with me. There were nights I cried quietly into my pillow after yet another supplier turned me down. There were mornings I nearly gave up until I'd glance at my wrist and remember the empty spot where my dad's watch used to sit. Slowly, the wins started to come. First, a small Etsy order. Then a local boutique agreed to carry 3 of my designs. When the first one sold out within a week, I stood in the stockroom of that boutique and cried, happy tears this time. From there, it snowballed. A blogger posted about my watches. A celebrity stylist ordered 2 for a photo shoot. By the end of that year, I wasn't bussing tables anymore. I was running my own tiny company, quietly, carefully, telling almost no one from back home. On social media, I kept things vague. A photo of a coffee mug, a city skyline, nothing that screamed success. Because this wasn't just about building a business. It was about building me, piece by piece, second by second, until I became someone Lily would never recognize. And when the first watch prototype with my name engraved on the back arrived, I didn't post it online. I just slipped it onto my wrist, stood in front of the mirror, and whispered, "This is mine." When Lily walked into my office, the first thing she noticed was the silence. Not the awkward kind, the expensive kind. The kind that comes from thick glass walls, soft carpet, and a space designed to make the outside world disappear. She paused in the doorway, clutching her designer tote. Her hair was just as perfect as I remembered, her expression carefully neutral. "Emma," she said, her voice bright but thin. "Lily." I gestured toward the velvet chair across from my desk. "Sit." As she settled in, her eyes scanned the room. They lingered on the framed sketches of watch dials on the wall, the gleaming display case in the corner, the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the Chicago skyline. "You work here?" she asked carefully. I smiled, slow and deliberate. "I don't just work here. I own it." She blinked, thrown off. "Own what?" I stood, crossing the room to the display case. Inside, my latest collection glowed under soft white lights, brushed gold, black enamel, polished steel. The logo on each dial gleamed. Lily's mouth parted as she leaned closer, reading the name etched on the glass. Emma Gray Watches. For a long moment, she didn't say a word. Just stared, her reflection shimmering back at her in the case. "This is yours," she whispered. "All of it." My voice was calm, but inside I was electric. The designs. The company. Every single piece that leaves this showroom has my name on it. I walked back to my desk and sat, crossing one leg over the other. "Funny thing, isn't it? You once told me I was stuck. That I'd never make it. And now," I gestured toward the room, toward the skyline behind me. "Now you're sitting in my office." Color rose in her cheeks. She looked down at her hands, then back at me. "I didn't come here to fight, Emma." "Good," I said, leaning forward. "Because this isn't a fight. This is a conversation you never thought you'd have with me." I reached for the watch on my wrist, a rose gold piece from my first signature line, and unbuckled it slowly, deliberately, letting the sound of the clasp clicking open fill the silence. "You took something from me once," I said softly. "And I let that moment define me for years. I let it hurt me. But now..." I set the watch on the table between us. "Now I own the brand you probably see in magazines. The one your husband brags about to his colleagues. I don't just have my time back, Lily, I own my time." She looked at the watch, then at me. There was guilt in her eyes now, real and unguarded. "Emma," she swallowed, her voice cracking just slightly. "I didn't know you'd become someone." I finished for her, but there was no malice in my tone. Just truth. Silence stretched between us again, but this time, I didn't rush to fill it. I let her sit with it. Let her take in the reality of the woman sitting across from her, the one she once underestimated, the one she can never belittle again. I let Lily sit there a little longer, shifting in her chair, until she finally asked, barely above a whisper, "Why did you agree to meet me?" I folded my hands on the desk. "Because I wanted to see if you were the same girl who took my watch that day. Or if you've grown up since then." Her shoulders sagged, and for the first time, I saw something almost unfamiliar on her face, humility. "Emma," she said quietly, "I was awful to you. I know that now. I came today because..." She hesitated. "Because we're struggling. Matt lost his job. We might lose the house." I took a slow breath, letting her words sink in. Years ago, I would have felt a flash of satisfaction at her misery. But now, all I felt was clarity. "You want my help?" I said simply. Her eyes met mine. "Yes." I leaned back in my chair. "Then you're going to have to earn it." She flinched, just slightly, but nodded. "You're going to stop belittling people who are starting from nothing. You're going to apologize to our family for the way you treated me. And most importantly," I leaned forward, my voice calm but unwavering, "you're going to find something you care about more than appearances and money. A purpose.
A job.
A dream. I don't care what it is, but it has to be yours." Lily swallowed hard. "That's a lot." "That's the price," I said, my tone softening just a touch. "I'm not here to punish you, Lily. I'm here to make sure neither of us ever goes back to being the girls we were that day. I became this woman because of that pain, and I think you could become someone better because of this one." For a moment, her eyes glistened. She nodded slowly, as if the weight of my words was finally settling where it needed to. "I'll do it," she said. I slid a folder across the desk toward her. "This is a starting point. A job I can offer you in community outreach for my foundation. It's not glamorous, it won't pay for designer handbags, but it will mean something. Take it or leave it." She looked down at the folder, then back at me, no longer angry, no longer defensive, just quiet. "Thank you," she said softly. I nodded once, standing to signal that the meeting was over. "Don't thank me yet. Prove me right about you first." A month later, I stopped by the foundation unannounced. I found Lily in the community workshop, hair pulled back, sleeves rolled up, helping a teenage girl assemble a simple clock kit. She looked different, softer, less polished, almost real. When she noticed me, she smiled. Not the tight, performative smile I remembered, but a small, genuine one. "She built this one almost by herself," Lily said, gesturing to the girls' project. Her face lit up when the hands started moving. I nodded, watching them both. For a moment, I saw a version of Lily I had never known. Patient, kind, grounded. Maybe even proud of something that didn't come with a price tag. Later that evening, back in my office, I sat alone with the city lights glittering outside. I slipped my watch off and turned it over in my hand, running my thumb across the engraving on the back. I thought about the girl I had been, sitting on those porch steps, feeling so small, so powerless, and the woman I had become. The path between them wasn't easy. It was long, jagged, full of nights where I almost quit. But I didn't. I reached into the drawer where I kept my father's old watch, returned to me years later by a relative who'd found it in Lily's things. It was still scratched, still worn, but I held it to my chest and closed my eyes. Grandma's words echoed in my mind. "You can't stop time, but you can decide what you do with it." I set the old watch beside my new one on the desk, 2 live side by side. Then, almost without thinking, I whispered into the quiet room, words that felt like a closing chapter and a beginning all at once. "She once stole my time. Now I own every second of it." And for the first time, it felt completely, beautifully true.